He has been making hits for the last 6 decades. Many of his songs are considered modern-day classics, such as Breaking Up Is Hard to Do, Calendar Girl, Laughter in the Rain, Solitaire, and Where the Boys Are. And while his hit, Love Will Keep Us Together, contains the refrain, Sedaka's back, in truth, he never left. Hello, I'm Ernie Manouse. Coming up on Interviews, our conversation with Grammy Award-winning composer and recording artist, Neil Sedaka. Do you think you are known for the best work you've done?
That's a very good question. A creative person is never satisfied, and I don't think I've written my greatest work yet.
Really?
I've written over 1,000 songs. Some of them will outlast me, but you know, that's the creative mind. You keep growing and trying to develop and writing something fresh and new.
If you took some of your earlier writings and some of the stuff you're doing today, is there still a sense of that Neil Sedaka style in it, or has that changed over the years?
Oh, I had a period between 58 and 63, the Calendar Girls and the Breaking Up Is Hard to Do's. And then in the 70s, the Solitaires and the Bad Bloods, they were very different. They were very, very different, more mature.
And today, what is the work that you're doing now feel
Well,
like?
I just wrote a ballet suite. I wrote, for the first time in my life, a classical piece. I studied as a concert pianist at the Juilliard School of Music, but that's still in development stage. But I have a new album that has both new songs and old, and that is coming out in April. It's called The Definitive Neil Sedaka.
Oh, cool. Now, when you decided to go from classical, because you said you were trained classically, into the pop world, did your family feel like you were slumming?
My mother and father were devastated. They had every intention of me becoming a concert pianist. I had a scholarship to the piano. But my mother got used to it. I bought her a mink stole.
And that eased the pain?
That eased the pain. And then I retired my father, Max, who was a cab driver for 30 years in New York. We called him Maxie the Taxi. And I bought my sister a home. And you know, it's wonderful to be able to play, Ernie, a Beethoven sonata, but it's much more rewarding to get up and sing your own compositions. And I am lucky. This is my 50th anniversary in show business.
Wow.
And I have become an American musical ambassador. I was the first American singer, rock and roll singer, to go to many foreign countries, sang in many languages.
Yeah. Do you think people forget how early you started all of this? I mean, there's so much music that's come out of you, and you've come back again decade after decade, that I think people forget the rich history that's there, too.
Well, thank you for remembering. I started in 1958 in the Brill Building in New York. People who wrote there were Carole King, Neil Diamond, Paul Simon. And I was very serious about it. You know, I had left classical music, and I found that there was a teenage market, and I auditioned for RCA Victor Records. The guy who discovered Elvis, Steve Scholes, auditioned me. They were looking for a new sex symbol, so they picked me.
So, of course.
And I had 10 hits in a row. Between 1958 and 1963, I sold 40 million records.
What does that do to your head, though, success that quickly and that big? I mean, it's not like you had a hit. You had hit after hit after hit.
Well, it wasn't an overnight success. I started at 13, believe it or not. And I didn't make it until I was 19.
Oh, wow.
It was a 6-year journey. I wrote for Atlantic Records, Jerry Wexler and Ahmet Ertegun, Clyde McPhatter, Laverne Baker, Dinah Washington, some of the great black artists in those days. So it was not an overnight success. And my only indulgence was a new car. Really? Every year I traded in the car for a new car. And I lived with my parents until I was married. So I really, it wasn't so emotionally draining. It wasn't overnight.
Yeah. The Brill Building experience, though, what was that like? Was it factory work in a sense?
Well, yes. We wrote songs from 10 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon. We wrote in a little cubicle with a piano, with no windows. And when you got a hit, you graduated to a room with windows. They awarded you that. And it was a great way to learn your craft.
Yeah.
Because some days you couldn't come up with anything, but maybe a little piece of a lyric or a melody, and then the next day it might come into something else. But it was very good. It developed that side of your brain, that creative side of your brain. So it was not one of these things where, oh, I have an inspiration. You know, you went into an office.
Could you tell what the hits were when you were writing them? When you got done with a song, could you look at it and say, this one's going to be a bigger one than that one?
In those days, yes. Today, it's a wide open market. I knew Calendar Girl was special. I knew Happy Birthday, Sweet 16 was special. I knew Breaking Up Is Hard to Do, Next Door to an Angel. Because, you know, there was a certain niche on the radio, AM radio. But today, it's a world music.
Yeah.
You know, you never really know what's going to break. It could be African sounding. It could be Belgian sounding.
Was there a formula that you could figure out to write a hit?
I was the king of the tra-la-las and the doobie-doos. That became a Neil Sedaka trademark. And I wrote what I called the sandwich song. It was a formula, being the two pieces of bread, the bread being the tra-la-las and the doobie-doos, and the inside, the meat of the song, was the actual lyric. So I called it the sandwich song. Do-do-do down, doobie-doo down, down. Then, don't take your love away from me. That was the meat. And then I ended with the piece of bread. Down, doobie-doo down, down. And I used to sing in 3 voices. I loved harmony singing. I was the first one in rock and roll to do multiple voices of myself. I learned it from Les Paul and Mary Ford and Patti Page.
Oh, wow.
And those people.
Did you enjoy writing more or performing more?
They went hand in hand. I wrote it, I recorded it, and I sang it on the stage.
Okay, when somebody else then would record one of your songs and have a hit with it, was there ever, I want that for me, I want that to be my hit, or is there a, these are my children, I can send them out?
Well, it happened with Love Will Keep Us Together. I recorded them all first, but the Captain and Neil heard my version and recorded it, and it was my first Grammy. So
that, I think, is surprising in and of itself, with all the body of work, that it wasn't until, what was that, 70?
Oh, I had Grammy nominations before for Breaking Up Is Hard to Do in various LPs.
Right.
Remember LPs?
Yeah, I remember those.
With the needle. But yeah, I was lucky some of the great singers have covered my songs. Andy Williams, Johnny Mathis, Peggy Lee, ABBA, Elvis, such a name dropper. A lot of great people have covered my song, but
True
I always sang it
false.
first.
You worked with ABBA writing the English lyrics for Ring Ring,
Ring
was
Ring.
it? For the Eurovision Song Contest.
That's right. They were the first, that was in Swedish, and they were unknown, and they came to me and said, could you give me an English lyric to this? And we wrote Ring Ring.
When you do something like that, I assume you're not just translating what they wrote. Do you put a whole new set of words to it?
A whole new set of words. And some of my biggest hits have been translated, and it changes the whole sentiment of the song. You know, the Spanish, Italian, German, French, they translated it to a different story.
Okay, then an odd question for you. How important is the actual words of the lyrics to a song?
Well, I, being a classical musician, listen to the tune first when I hear it, something on the radio. But then, if the lyric is good, by the second and third hearing, it will make longevity. A great song really is a marriage of words and music. And if the sentiment of the song is something that's worldly, that appeals to a mass public, then the lyric will stretch the success of the song past the melody.
How much of your life did you have to give up to be a star? Was there a trade-off, or were you able to find a way to balance?
I have a very normal life. I have wife, children, grandchildren, Papa Neil.
Notice that.
And then I have Neil Sedaka, the artist. It's two separate lives, and you have to keep them separately. If you start believing that you're this or that, what the papers say, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But you have to give up your privacy. You know, if I'm in a restaurant, people might come up and ask for an autograph or snap a picture, and I think that's very flattering. I do not mind at all. I think that's a great compliment. I worked very hard for that, so I can get into a theater, or when I go shopping, I get very nice courtesies.
Yeah.
You know, that's part of being a celebrity.
When you started to disappear from the charts performing, a lot of artists would say, okay, I had my run. They still want it, but it's kind of passing by. You reinvented. You figured out what to do. If I remember correctly, you went to England. You revitalized the career. How did you know to do that? How did you know you didn't just sit there and say, why isn't this working? What was it that drove you?
Well, for 10 years, people walked up to me and said, didn't you used to be Neil Sedaka?
Oh.
And that's bothersome.
Yeah.
You know, when you have 10 hits in a row and then nothing. I wanted it with a vengeance, Ernie. I'm a very serious, aggressive, that's the only aggressive part of Neil Sedaka, the music. Yeah. And I met Elton John in London at a Bee Gees concert. The Bee Gees are friends of mine. And he said, I understand you're recording with the 10cc's, a hot group in England. He said, I've been a fan of yours since the old days. I'd like to come up and hear what you're recording with the 10cc's. And he came to my apartment. I was living in London with my family. And he was wearing his funny shoes and his sequences. And he heard the songs. He said, you know, I'm starting a record label in America. I think I could bring you back. And lo and behold, after 10 years, we had an album on his label, Elton John's Rocket Records, and we had an album called Sedaka's Back. And it had Laughter in the Rain and The Immigrant, and That's When the Music Takes Me, and Love Will Keep Us Together.
And that always seemed like a risky move to me, that someone released an album called Sedaka's Back, because if it hadn't worked, it would have been an embarrassing album name, I think.
Well, the material was very strong, and Elton John, the biggest star in the world, was the PR person.
Yeah.
He went on the radio being EJ the DJ, and he promoted the new Neil Sedaka. So it was pretty sure.
The second go-round, then, when you come back now with After Sedaka's Back, is it different fame that time?
Yes, because I was a face on television. I did the Merv Griffin, the Mike Douglas, the Johnny Carson, the Sonny and Cher. And the first time around, I was just a voice on the record. I did limited. I did the Ed Sullivan and Dick Clark, but it was limited. The second time around, I showed a face, a personality, and I was on a lot of television shows.
Yeah. Did you enjoy it more the next time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. I went from making $30,000 a week, $30,000 a year, to $7 million a year because of Sedaka's Back.
Wow.
Just that one album.
So then you get this. How do you then make sure that doesn't go away? What do you do? And really, are you in control of that?
The records right now, if you get a hit record, it's gravy. Yeah. I'm a performing artist, and people will pay to hear me. I have a big body of work, so I do about 30 concerts a year, and people will come and hear it, whether I have a top 10 or not. But I'd like one more top 10. I'm working on it.
But if you got that one more top 10, and we sat down after that one, would you still say, but I want one more top 10?
No.
You really think you'd be satisfied?
I'd be satisfied because I love performing, and I love that people, you know, that adrenaline rush, that live concert. I'm here at Jones Hall with a symphony of 100 pieces, and 2,500 people come to hear me sing. That's the high for me, that adrenaline high.
After your American Idol involvement, which you went on American Idol, and how did that audience change that comes to see you?
I couldn't walk in the street for a week.
Really?
14-year-old kids were asking for my autograph. I couldn't go to the cleaners. I couldn't go to the shopping malls. It was a great thrill. I called. I was a fan of the show. And the 5 finalists, let me tell you how it happened. I called, I said, "Hi, this is Neil Sedaka. I'm a fan of American Idol. I'd love to be a celebrity judge." And the woman on the other end said, "Are you kidding? Is this really Neil Sedaka?" She said, "We're having a meeting. We'll call you back in an hour." They called. They said, "You're on in a couple of weeks. And the 5 finalists will sing all Neil Sedaka songs, including Clay Aiken, who sang Solitaire, which wound up to be the second biggest single of 2 years ago."
Yeah, that's amazing.
And my whole catalog went through the roof. You know, my old records on the Amazon.com and all of the shops went through the roof. So it was a great revitalized career.
There are critics out there of this whole televised talent search competitions going on. What's your feeling on it?
I never miss it. I TiVo it. I love it because everybody really is a producer in their own mind, a record producer or a talent agent. People love that program because it takes somebody from obscurity to superstardom. And I like it because it's bringing back some of the good songs, 50s songs, 60s songs, and melody and lyrics are coming back. I love it.
Yeah. When you sit down to write, is the process any different today than it was 30, 40, 50 years ago?
I listen to music. I'll listen to contemporary artists, Christina Aguilera, John Mayer, Corinne Bailey Rae, and they inspire me, the new people. I say, well, that's interesting, but could I write that better?
Yeah.
You know, could I sing that? You know, there's 2 ways of writing. Either you write for the commercial market or you write just for yourself. And both approaches are interesting. But to me, the more important is if you have a commercial success and people hear what you're doing.
Have you written things for yourself that you've never recorded, that are just pieces that you enjoy for you?
I throw them away. If I don't
Really?
finish them, I throw them away. So, I record everything that I finish. I'm proud of everything that I finish. And some of them I call the forgotten children or the neglected children, because in those days we used to write 12 songs for an LP. And some of them have never been heard. So in the new album, I'll put some of those forgotten children in. I put in 3 or 4, some demos that have never been heard. The demo for Where the Boys Are, Love Will Keep Us Together, just with a small group. I wanted to put some of those forgotten things in.
Yeah. Is it you mentioned Where the Boys Are, and I forgot asking about this earlier. When you see a song become a movie, is that a weird thing to see the name of your song as the name of a film?
Connie Francis was a friend, and she came up to me. She said, she had done just a couple of my songs, Stupid Cupid, and she said, there's a movie called Where the Boys Are. Write me a Where the Boys Are. And Howie Greenfield and I sat down and wrote 2 songs by that title. And she liked Where the Boys Are, the second one. And Joe Pasternak, the producer, may rest, said, "Oh, Neil, I assure you a nomination for the Academy Awards." I said, "Really?" He said, "This is the biggest song from a movie in 1962, 61. So I was all set. Not only was I not nominated, but I was forgotten. And the winner, strangely enough, was Zorba the Greek. Never on a Sunday. Where the Boys Are still plays on the radio.
Right.
So I got the last laugh.
Is award winning important to you?
It's politics. A lot of it is politics.
Yeah.
And the Academy Award also knows those who give the best parties and those who are most well-liked. Grammys. I don't much watch the Grammys anymore. Yeah. If I'm nominated, I'll watch.
Then you'll watch. Is there a way that you judge success in your own career then? Besides record sales, is there something to you that says success or failure?
Longevity, respect, people who might cover a song, might sample piece of one of my songs on a rap record, which has happened. To be remembered, I think, to have some, after I'm gone, to have some kind of immortality. That shows success.
The song "Oh Carol." Carole King is who the subject of that song is?
I dated Carol Klein, who changed her name to Carole King, and I wrote "Oh Carol" for her. And then she...
countered with her own song.
Yes. An answer record. In those days, we had answer records. And she wrote, "Oh, Neil, I've loved you for so long. I never dreamed you put me in a song."
Okay, strange question then. You date someone who's in the public eye. Yeah. You break up. Is that harder? I mean, these people don't just drift away. They're out there, especially when you've got a song that you sing about her and she has a song about you.
Well, we see each other on occasion, and we still say hi. We were 17 years old.
Right, but back early on, though, when that was going on and you're just teenagers and you're writing your music and stuff.
Well, by the time "Oh Carol" came out, she was dating Jerry Goffin, and I was engaged to be married. Lieber and I will be married for 45 years. Yeah. We have 2 beautiful children and now 3 grandchildren.
Papa Neil again.
Papa Neil, twin girls, 4 years old, Charlotte and Amanda, and Michael Ethan is 1 year old. So I'll put them through college.
Yeah, and I know your daughter is an accomplished singer in her own right.
My daughter and I had one of the few father and daughter hits, "Should Have Never Let You Go." She was a jingle singer for a time. But not everybody's cut out for showbiz. She chose not to go into it. My son is a screenwriter for movies and television.
Does that make you happy or sad that they're not following in the musical footsteps of
Whatever
their dad?
makes them happy, Ernie.
Really?
Oh, sure. It's a hard life. The traveling is hard. The rejection, the criticism. You open up a newspaper, you're open for criticism.
Yeah.
You can't please everybody all the time.
What makes the marriage work then? So many showbiz marriages just can't make it.
We're friends. We respect each other. We love the same things. We love being together. We like the same restaurants, the same movies. We have the same taste.
How do you keep it interesting then?
I think being on the road, those times when I'm apart, then when I come back, it becomes more exciting.
Is there ever a time where you're going to say, okay, time to retire? Or is that a dirty word for you?
Well, I support too many people.
You can't retire.
Number 2, I love the performing.
Yeah.
And number 3, the money is too good, to be totally honest with you. The money, I mean, unless you're an athlete, professional athlete, or an entertainer, or a CEO, that's hard to give up.
Do you keep the discipline that you had when you were a young writer? Do you still keep the kind of hours? And
I'll write twice a year. I wrote for the new album. I have a love-hate relationship with writing. I'm afraid of it during the process, that it won't come out as well as I'd like. I like when it's finished and I can play it for my friends and family.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So what are the 2 times a year that you write?
Just whenever somebody comes up and says, we'd like to sign you to this new record label, and we'd like some new songs.
So you don't have those moments of inspiration where you just sit down and start doodling out a song?
Sometimes, but I need a catalyst. I need somebody to say, I had an idea a few years ago to do Classically Sedaka, where I wrote lyrics to famous classical melodies. It was one of my biggest sellers with a symphony orchestra. I do it here. I did I like to do different changes of pace. Yeah.
When you are composing, how does that come out of you? Is it all of a sudden you know it, or is it you work and rearrange and fix, or how do you hear the music? I
have a cassette machine next to the piano, and I'll play and sing. I usually start with a tempo or a piano accompaniment, a beat, and then with my voice I look for a melody, and at the end I'll put the words to it. It's like picking out of the air. It's scary.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't come as quickly as you'd like. Billy Joel gives me a good story. Every time I meet him, we laugh about this. He said he wrote the greatest melody of his life, and he called his musicians at 2 a.m. He said, "You got to come over. Listen to this melody." And he played dee 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 da 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 dum da 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 dum. And the musician said, "It's good, but it's Neil Sedaka's Laughter in the Rain." He said, "Oh my God!" And that happens. You could copy something unconsciously. So he changed the words. I forget. He started with. Well, anyway, you can get the idea.
Do you ever get tired of Laughter in the Rain?
Are you kidding?
But there's got to be those
People
nights.
put my children and grandchildren through school.
Aren't those nights, though, when you get up there and you're like, oh, not that song again? There have to. Never.
Never. It comes alive every time I sing it. And I am so proud of Laughter in the Rain. Hand in mine, ooh, I hear laughter in the rain. My God, that's a magnificent chord change.
Yeah, oh, it's great. And thank you for everything you've done, the music, the joy you've given us. Neil Sedaka, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
To order a DVD of this or any episode of InnerVIEWS, please visit HoustonPBS.org.